This is the Black TV Show podcast hosted by Miriam Temeskin. Welcome back. We're doing the Cosby Show season 4, episode 5, Shakespeare, and I have I have Shani back on the podcast. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm good. I have been busy for the most part, but I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm almost done the film that we're working on, so I might have some sleep. It's been all night, so I've been working every day at nighttime, sleeping during the day with like little sleep. So I've just been hallucinating.
Yeah, you've been putting in some work with this movie. Like you've been on the go. So yay.
I hope to talk about it. It's coming out next year. I just can't say what it is because I signed an NDA, unfortunately. Right. But yeah. But besides that, I'm excited. We're getting into another episode of the Cosby Show, and it's Shakespeare, which I'm not a fan of. It's as a student.
Yeah, he's an acquired taste. I enjoy him, but what I do not enjoy is all the billing and coding that you have to do to understand this man. And some things can be easily interpreted, but for the most part, it's like, dude, could you just make it plain? Like, why must he can say something like, I took a journey to the small vendor shack up the road and purchased miscellaneous items that my soul desired. When really it's like, I went to the store up the street and got me some chips, juice, candy. And I'm happy. Like, dude. But I guess maybe that's the flip side of the interesting coin about him is the words that he uses and the way that he's able to force you to think and force you to listen to what is being said. It kind of takes me back to the episode of A Different World with Lena. I can't remember the name of the episode, but I know it's
is it with Dr. Foster also?
Yes, with Professor Foster as well. And it was Romeo and Juliet, and she was having a Dickens of a time understanding what she was supposed to be doing until she learned that it was all about translation. And she was working with can't think of that boy's name, Terrence. And they rented West Side Story and everything, which I had to do the same thing when I did Romeo and Juliet. I was in 8th grade when I had to study them. And so my mom was like, okay, let's get West Side Story. I probably would not recommend to do that because that movie is long and drawn out.
Yeah.
I fell asleep at least 3 times. So, I mean, excellent with the concept, with, the parallels of it all, and even the musical selections always will be a classic, but you must be mentally prepared to watch that.
Yeah, and with Shakespeare, it's just hard to grasp the language of it, and it's just like it could have just been simple, with Romeo and Juliet, they fall in love and then they both die, basically, right? That's how it basically ends. Or one of them,
and doesn't that sound like Bonnie and Clyde?
Yeah.
Well, with a little extra stuff. But yeah, with Shakespeare, my best friends were Spark Notes, Cliff Notes, anything Shakespeare for Dummies.
You remember the Cliff Notes for Macbeth that they had?
Yes.
Or what was it called? Cleveland Notes.
That's Cleveland Notes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And back, I think with the Cleveland notes, what they had was like a little pamphlet. Like I had a book, and thankfully, internet. Um, I had sparknotes.com and Cliff Notes books, and even with those as aids, I probably did not understand much more until I was in class. But also, you have to read Shakespeare in order to, even if you're going to try to cheat, you still have to read the story, which is also what was proven in that Macbeth episode. Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
And it rings true. You do actually have to do your reading for that.
Yeah, so this episode aired October 22nd, 1987, and it's basically Theo and Walter are setting Shakespeare for school, but they're not happy about it. Cliff decides to have a barbecue for dinner in the fall, which I literally had a barbecue last week, and it's fall now, but it was a bit warm, so it was okay. And we did it in the garage, so it wasn't outside in the cold. But anyways, and they invite friends and family, and Russell comes and they basically recite Shakespeare and brings a friend along. So that's basically the sum of this episode. And we start the episode with Claire just wants to sleep in, like all of us. We just don't want to go to work.
I felt her on about 3 spiritual levels because my job keeps me running back and forth. I work with kids, and this year I work with 5th graders. And these 5th graders, I don't know where they came from, but they've been here before, and maybe a few times over, because every day there is something new. There's something interesting that happens. I hear something crazy come out of their mouths every day. I just have to literally be prepared to hear it. I can't really prepare for what I'm going to hear because they truly keep me on my toes. But just literally being prepared for something crazy to pop off, that's me all day. I'm running back and forth. And if it's not somebody doing something crazy in the classroom, it's somebody running out of the classroom, or it might not even be my student. It could be a student in another class. I could be in the hallway and some kid is throwing a fit in the middle of the hallway, running away from class. And then I got to lure them back to class. Goodness gracious. Like I don't know which way is up sometimes. And I can only imagine how hard it is for a lawyer to be always at work. A lawyer, that's the type of job you got to bring your work home.
Yeah.
Ooh, poor Claire.
But anyways, Cliff suggests for dinner tonight is to have a barbecue, and it is I couldn't I see the thing is I would literally have, the producer I work for, he's American, and we were talking about this whole conversation about Fahrenheit and Celsius, and I don't understand Fahrenheit, so I don't know what the degrees that they said, but it sounded like it was cold. It was cold outside.
That's interesting that you say that because I don't understand Celsius. So everything we do out here is Fahrenheit, and I love the fact that you bring me to reality every time we talk, because I really totally do not even remember. Like sometimes it's easy to forget that you're not in the US. So with Fahrenheit,
like they said something at cold temperature. I just didn't catch the actual temperature, but it sounded like it was cold.
Yeah, so for New York, New York is an area that is there by water. Seasons really hit hard, especially like their winter. It could be crazy. So I think they might have said something between like 30 and 50 degrees. Yes, that is
pretty cold.
Yeah,
I just know that
you need a jacket.
Yeah, I just know that 32 Fahrenheit is 0 degrees Celsius. That's all I know. So let me just
cold. Yeah, and that's pretty cold.
Yeah. And so basically Claire's like, let's not do the barbecue. It's just not the time of the year to do barbecue. And he's like, no, we got to, Dr. Foster is coming. And I'm like, that is not a reason to do a barbecue in such cold weather. Like, and he puts everything on the barbecue too. He puts like mac and cheese or whatever, salads and all that stuff on there. And I'm like, what?
And see, I love food and I love grilled food. I like smoked food. And I've heard of certain things being on the grill that I would have never done. Like in recent years, I've learned that people have put pizza on the grill. And I'm like, oh, okay. But the concept and the idea from a perspective of somebody who likes food, it's like, oh, okay. Like it's a meme of this girl. It went viral. She tried something and then her face was like, mm-mm. And it was like, wait. It was like, wait. And that's kind of the approach that I take to him throwing everything on the grill. But then it's like the other moment of a strawberry shortcake on the grill. Why do I want grilled cake? I don't want it. It sounds like an oxymoron. It's like my brain is like does not compute. Certain, how it's just certain things just should not go together.
They just don't mix together.
Like how you shouldn't put cheese on cereal.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about identical.
Yeah, I agree with you. But so Claire says, okay, fine, we'll do it, but we're gonna eat inside, not outside, which is smart.
Absolutely.
And so we cut to it's evening time, and Cockroach and Theo, it looks like they're about to study something, and Cliff mentions like, do you want to stay for dinner? And Cockroach was like, sure, I just gotta call my parents. And you would think he's calling his parents and be like, can I stay over? And Theo's like, no. He's calling to see what's at his house to see which food is better. I was like, what?
Right. Like, hey, what we having for dinner? Oh, chicken and salad. All right. So here's the deal. I'll see you later. That's what it sounds like. Oh man, I can imagine being a teenager back then, being so fun.
And so then Cliff was asking like what are you guys reading or what are you guys studying? And they were like Shakespeare again. But this time it came up in history class, which the question I have, which even Theo is mentioning, is like, is it literature or is it history? I don't know. Like, I feel like because of the language of Shakespeare, I feel like it's more literature, but like Julius Caesar has to do with the ancient Rome. So I don't know. But
so I mean, don't quote me on this, but I think that I've been told that sometimes Shakespeare kept up with the times. So Julius Caesar, I think with it being its own storyline, also was kind of reflective of what was happening then. Unless he just made Julius Caesar a character of a Roman himself and still just built up a whole thing. But there's kind of a very, very fine line where history and literature collide. And it may be dependent upon the school system and the curriculum that they use or that they're required to have, where you either learn about Shakespeare in history or you learn about him in an English class. I have always learned about Shakespeare. It's like Shakespeare might have been mentioned in a history book of mine, but if I got anything, if I did any, let me stop. If I delved in any harder, like if I got any depth with it, then it was in an English class. That was a mouthful, and I really hope I made sense to the listeners. I apologize if I'm having y'all like, girl, spit it out, say what you're trying to say.
Whew. I don't know. For me, I think it's literature because like the language of Shakespeare is like something else, and like when you're learning about history, the history should be plain English. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And see, history is supposed to be, you know, events in time, and Shakespeare, I guess he created events in time when he was putting on his plays. So I guess the time to which he was doing things is the historical part. And then his actual works is the literature part. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so we're in the same boat as Theo, figuring out this.
Yep.
We're like, we don't know.
We're here. And Malcolm Jamal Warner, if you come across this, we stand in solidarity with you, brother. Also, Carl Anthony Payne.
But yes. And so, yeah, as I said, they're studying it because they're reading it because of they're studying ancient Rome. And also they got an option between Shakespeare and the other book, and apparently the other book was like thick. So then the class decided to choose Shakespeare. But apparently the whole other this class that they've been in, I guess, have never read Shakespeare because Cockroach was like, they don't understand what it's like to read Shakespeare because we've experienced it. And I'm like, what about the rest of the class? Wouldn't you have all been in the same Shakespeare class the year before? Like, I don't know. So that was a weird thing that he said that. But anyways, Cliff says that he's making barbecue and he's going to make something that goes along with what they're studying. And guess what that is? Caesar salad.
First of all, let's give a shout out to the fact that we were on one accord with each other, saying that just as they were in the episode.
Yes.
High five. Also, let's run it back a little bit. You said about what they mentioned about their classmates.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking that maybe the other classmates had electives, because by this time they're seniors, I'm assuming.
For this season, it's seniors, yeah.
Yeah, because Denise is already in college and she's sitting in front of Dr. Foster as he keeps making mentions about how she hasn't taken his class. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, first of all, you're petty. Like, it's bad enough that the professor who I dropped is in my house. Like, why you gotta do me like this? I have to go back to school and see you there.
She only did one day too, which is like, I wouldn't even do that. I would actually get into it and just see how it goes before dropping it out. Or dropping out.
I would probably give it 2 weeks. But like, you also are given a certain amount of time to be in the class and drop it before you are held accountable for whatever grade you get.
Yeah. And also you get your money back. Sorry. I don't know. For me, it was like, I think you got like 3 weeks, and then if you don't like the class or if you decide to switch classes, you switch it or get out and you don't pay it. They give you your money back.
You know what? That actually might be a thing. Because I don't imagine you having to keep paying for a class that you're not taking. So
it's only but there is a deadline. If you pass that deadline, and you drop out, then you're screwed. You spent the money.
Yikes.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was being petty, steadily making that mention. But yeah, so by this time, by your senior year of high school, electives are, through the roof. So, I'm sure, and I probably can say that if I could have avoided having to take any type of Shakespeare, anything in high school, I would jump at the chance to do so. Same. Especially if I knew that I could graduate without having to take it. But I probably would regret it once I got to college, because if anybody out there has ever taken the class that they had the opportunity to take in high school and did not take in high school and then tried to learn as a college student, then you know the pain and the agony. And you know that internalized anxiety attack where it's like, am I gonna learn this? Am I gonna understand this? I'm shaking. You know, like it's terrifying. And I mean, you know, if you have it in you to be able to push through, then high five. If you don't have it just yet, then high five. You'll get there in your own pace. Self-care is key. But uh yeah, I definitely would have passed it up. And I have a feeling that their classmates definitely passed that up. Especially as a senior, I'm trying to get in and get out as quickly as I can. Senior year was fun.
I don't remember if I had to read Shakespeare in senior year. I think junior I had that was Romeo and Juliet, and I guess grade 10 would have been Macbeth for me. I think that was how it was. Because when I got to grade 12, I took the easiest English because I was like, I suck at English. I cannot, like, I cannot. So I took the easiest one and they gave us like the most simplest thing.
I took the easiest English class and it still mollywopped me, okay? It pinned my muffin cap back blue. It knocked me out. It kicked me while I was down. I took it wasn't Shakespeare. From what I remember, I had to read the book The Color Purple by Alice Walker, and I had to write a big paper. We were given, I think we were given different prompts, and we had to answer the prompts in like 10 pages. And on one hand, it was preparation for the papers that we would have to write when we got to college. But on the other hand, I'm like, for real? Really? This what you're gonna do to me? How am I supposed to write 10 pages off of this one? I have one line for the answer to this question. And you want me to expand this one line into 10 pages? Are you nuts? What you want me to do? Dissect each word and make a page off of each word? Am I supposed to stretch this out like Gumby? Am I supposed? Who do you think I am? What kind of brain did you think I developed? I felt really offended.
I agree.
I mean, yeah. She gave us the model for how to do it, and then I just learned that it was just like excessive tedium. But I kind of I like the teacher, so I'm not gonna say that I kind of want to throw hands, but you know, I wouldn't mind sitting down with a glass of wine and having a few choice words to spew at her, because I almost didn't make it. That was hard. That was a hard time in my life.
Oh no.
So for y'all out there, I feel your pain.
I feel it. And so it's later that evening where we're getting close to the dinner time, and Rudy comes in with her fairy tale story that she wrote, which for me, growing up, I wrote a lot of stories, and like my my one friend, she always brings this up. I used to write really dark stories, and I don't recall any of the info that's on those stories, but she just told me they were very dark, and I'm like, oh, I wrote dark stories, but like I don't know where they came from. I to this day I couldn't find the writings that I wrote because I think we threw out all my childhood stuff. But yeah, or like in terms of school stuff, like any like assignments or something like that. So, but yeah, I used to write so much as a child because I guess my imagination was so big because as an only child, that's all you got. So I remember writing, I don't know if I wrote fairy tales, but like I remember writing like short stories and stuff like that. And so Rudy's writing a short story, or just a fairy tale story, and she's asking for a spelling, which is so me because I cannot spell for days. And back in the day, there wasn't. I don't know if dictionary.com was a thing when I was that age, but it was like I had to actually go through the physical dictionary to find words. And so she is asking for the spelling of forest, which is so, for me, I would probably ask for the spelling of forest because I don't know if I can spell that. And so she
right,
asks,
because she's like, what, third grade? Or no, is she younger than that?
maybe fourth grade now. Oh, I don't even know.
Well, they're still on words that, it sounds like one thing, but then they're spelled another way.
Yeah.
So she's in that proper age range.
Yeah.
I kind of took pride in learning how to spell. I was in like every spelling bee growing up, to the point where like I had people accusing me of cheating in the spelling bee when I would win, because they would just be that upset at the fact that I kept winning. Like, my trophies are around here somewhere. Like, I've only won second place maybe like twice. Once or twice. No. I won second place once, and then 1 year I didn't participate. But the rest of them I got first place. And then I was able to go to regional like twice.
Oh, so you did the whole Aquila and the Bee thing.
Basically, I just, I didn't make it past the region, but in the region, I was in the last three. Like, after I missed my word, which I'm really upset because I had a simple word and I didn't know that I had a simple word.
What's the word?
It was nil. NIL, which means nothing.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I never learned that word before. So when they said it, I'm like, mm. And in my mind, like, if anybody's done anything as far as like public speaking or being in front of people at a mic or a podium or something, if you're like me, your mind gets to racing while you are trying to hold your composure and focus on why you're there. And in my mind, I'm thinking about various spellings, and they're racing at a millisecond per millisecond. And while I'm playing beat the clock and trying not to get timed out, I'm like, how can I spell it? How can I spell it? How can I spell it? Ugh. And then I think I spelled it NILL. Yeah. And they were like, no, it's NIL. And I'm like, oh. And I just know if I would have gotten past that word, I probably would have gotten to the next one, or at least have been a runner-up. I'm confident. I'm sorry. I know who I am.
Well, so she asks Vanessa how to spell it, and she spells it for her. And then she asks Rudy if she can read the story. And of course, Rudy's like, no, because there's other episodes where like Vanessa would like critique how like, there's supposed to be introduction, a body, and like all this a proposition, which I've never heard of myself. So I understand where Rudy's coming from, because I'm like,
yeah, like,
I don't want to show you my stuff. She was
always raining on her parade. Like, Vanessa and Rudy, their dynamic is typical. I have an older cousin who is my Vanessa, and our relationship is kind of similar to how they were. But Vanessa was very good for raining on Rudy's parade. Like, if we go back as far as the earliest part of the show, she always was trying to get a dog at Rudy's expense. Rudy got soap in her eyes, and she's like, if she's blind, can we get a dog? She would use Rudy for personal gain. They forever fighting and arguing. Rudy minding her business, and Vanessa don't like it. She bothering her for some reason, or Rudy wants some attention. Now, I'm not going to say that Rudy didn't have her moments where she was annoying. But for the most part, Rudy was a kid being a kid. People was bothering her, telling her she's too little to do stuff and get away from me, leave me alone, you told, all of that. Just treating her like a bald-headed stepchild. Now it's like, oh, let me read your stuff. No, back up off of me. I felt triggered because I'm the baby in my family. And they used to do me like that.
I see that.
They used to do me like that. And I'm like, nah, y'all not going to act like y'all ain't been treating me like this all this time. And now you finna act like everything's sweet. Leave me alone. They like me now. Now I'm everybody's favorite.
Well, that's good to hear. And so, Vanessa's like, I'm just gonna say some nice things, and like I promise not to say anything mean. So she reads the story, and we find out that the dragon in the story is named Vanessa after her, and she was like, "That's I don't like that. You got to pick another name." And Rudy's like, "No, I like the name Vanessa. That's all." I guess she was saying that's all she could think of at that moment.
Girl, how you gonna tell me that I need to change the character in my story? Ain't nobody asked you for all that. See, rude. See, that's what I'm talking about. My bad. Go ahead.
And so we leave that conversation and we move into the kitchen where Dr. Foster is helping cutting carrots, which was like the weirdest thing for me. Like your guest comes and cuts carrots for you. Like,
I think that's how you know that you fostered a really good relationship with people. Like my best friend, she had a party at her house one time. I walked in there and just immediately started cooking. I'm like, oh, you want, because she had a menu.
But that's your friend. This is a professor that they had. You know what I mean? Like that's a weird relationship.
Oh, you right. Now that I think about it, did they ever kind of mention why he was even there?
Oh, he came from Hillman to visit. Because he comes often. He's been in, I think he was in another episode. I remember when they were playing, what's it called, that game, like that card game that they play with.
Oh,
so he comes there and back.
It's not canasta. What is that? It's not pinochle.
No. But like I think he also has things that he does in New York, so that this is like a place where he stops. Because I remember that card episode. He was going to stop by at a university for a lecture. So,
okay.
So I think that's their excuse of why he would be there.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was just weird. But anyways, Claire is watching outside while Cliff is barbecuing in this cold weather. And, she's basically saying he's just a fool. And he comes from outside inside to the house, and he's actually wearing an apron that says "I" with the heart barbecue.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, he was prepared with the apron.
Absolutely. I've learned that like a man on a mission is going to accomplish that mission. He kind of reminds me of my uncle. I have an uncle who loves to cook. Like it's his therapy. And he would find joy in clever aprons like "Kiss Me, I'm the cook," or something clever like that. And I always think it's kind of cute to see like older men, because they are in their groove. If you watch a man at a grill, or just watching a man cook, period, and you see how much he's in his element and how much fun he's having, clearly Cliff shows it don't matter, rain or shine, hot or cold, I'm cooking. And it's about to go down tonight. And it went down, but he was a fool because it was crazy cold outside. And now you're going to have the sniffles, and I got to deal with you coughing, wheezing, sneezing, and everything else. And I got to down medicine down your throat every 4 hours. When will they ever learn?
Never. I don't know. And at this time, Denise is there, and we've already talked about the whole dropping out of classes, but she asks Dr. Foster if he's retiring because, you know, she doesn't want to take the class. And he's like,
okay, smart.
And he's like, I've been thinking about it every day, but I will not do it until you take the class. I'm like, damn. First of all,
even more petty.
First of all, we find out he hasn't retired until probably at least 1992 because he was in that final, or he was in the either season 5 or season 6, the episode that you mentioned with Lena. And
yes,
so he won't retire for a while, at least.
Right.
We cut to the doorbell rings and it's Russell, and he brings a friend called his name is Jonathan Lawrence, who is played by Christopher Plummer, who actually passed away this year, and he is a fellow Canadian.
Oh
yeah. So, and he's done like so much acting. He's done like over 200 credits worth of acting.
Okay, because I'm like, is he like a soap actor, or because he looks a little familiar, but I can't pinpoint why I saw him or why I recognize him.
I don't know. I just don't. I'm not familiar with his work, but I think he's just been in so many movies and probably a lot of TV shows that I don't know of.
I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah.
200 credit actors.
Yeah, in the 91 years that he's been on Earth. So
90. Wow.
Yeah, he passed away this
full
February.
Life.
Yeah.
A full life.
So
rest in peace, man.
Yeah, and he made a bet with Russell because they smelled charcoal in the air. And they're like, who would do a barbecue at this time of the year? And Russell was like, my son. And he won the bet. And they only betted $1, which is like nothing. That's so like, I don't know. Back then it was probably something, but now it's like nothing.
You know, old men are interesting. And especially old men in those times. The simplest thing is the cleverest thing about them. And like you just said, you know, back then $1 was just all like, I'll bet you $1 that was my son. You gonna give me that 100 cents because I know that I am right. You know, the dollar really hit a little different back then. Well, no, I guess so, because remember we talked about it the last episode, the value of the dollar back then, versus the dollar now.
Yeah,
you know, so it did hit a little different.
Yeah, so we find out that Jonathan he teaches drama. He's a professor at Columbia, and he actually thought to bring him along to meet Dr. Foster, since I guess they knew that he's over at the house for the evening. So we cut to, like, this is the end of Act 1, and we're going into Act 2, and now everyone is in the living room. I guess this is after dinner because they never showed the dinner part of it.
Right.
And Denise asked Jonathan, like, you know, do you teach acting? And he's like, yeah, I teach acting. And she was like, well, I don't have a major, so, you know, maybe I could be a drama major. And then Dr. Foster, being petty, saying, you gotta take my class
first. You still have
first.
to take my class.
Yeah.
Which he's not lying, but dang, can you not?
Yeah, and like, is she transferring from Hillman to Columbia? Like,
well,
I don't know. Where is Columbia?
Probably not.
I don't
Columbia's
even know
in New York.
Oh, okay. It is New York. Okay.
So, well, and now that I think about it, she could have transferred because she wouldn't have had to pay out-of-state fees.
Mm-hmm.
But if she thought Hillman was hard, Columbia, girl, you would have had a footprint on your butt.
Yeah. And then Vanessa asked, like, has he taught anyone famous? And apparently he did, but I don't know who the person was. It was someone in a commercial, and I'm like, oh, okay.
I think he said Michael Longfellow or no.
I don't know.
Yellowfinger, something. Somebody.
That's. I have a feeling that's not a real person. It's just a person that they made up.
Yeah, I think he was just making a joke at the fact that, you know, he worked with a joke to work for him to be a joke.
Mm-hmm. And so then Theo and Cockroach get up because they're ready to go back upstairs and study Shakespeare again. And Cliff is just shocked that like they're gonna miss dessert for this. And Cliff thinks like they're showing off, and they're like, "No, we have to study. Like we don't have the time." And Dr. Foster asks, and also Jonathan asks, like, "What are they studying?" And they said Shakespeare, and Jonathan and Dr. Foster are happy about it because this is their thing, drama, literature, But Cockroach is like says it is boring. I think I have a clip. Let's see if this is actually going to work on me. Where like they start reciting out of nowhere, like after saying it's boring. So let's I'll open this up.
Cassius is trying to recruit Brutus to participate in the plot against Caesar.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, well, that's a marvelous scene. The senators are applauding and cheering Caesar, and Brutus leans over to Cassius and says, "Another general shout. I do believe that these applauses are for some new honors that are heaped on Caesar." Well, then Cassius says to Brutus, "Why, man, he doth bestride the narrow world like a colossus, and we petty men walk under his huge legs and peep about to find ourselves dishonorable graves. Men at some time are masters of their fates. The fault, dear Brutus, is not in our stars, but in ourselves, that we are underlings. Brutus and Caesar, what should be in that Caesar? Why should that name be sounded more than yours? Write them together, yours is as fair a name. Sound them, it doth become the mouth as well. Weigh them, it is as heavy. Conjure with them, Brutus will start a spirit as soon as Caesar. Now, in the name of all the gods at once, upon what meat doth this our Caesar feed? That he is grown so great." Oh.
I love their faces. They were like, I don't know what you're saying.
That's it was so attention grabbing, and I think it was because I kind of had that moment too, where you're actually trying to listen to understand, and then it's the moment that's happening when you are beginning to understand. Because when I watched the episode over just to be in preparation for this episode, I was like, wow, okay, I see what you're saying, Julius, or whoever this was they were talking about. I was like, oh, right. And then that's where I had my turnaround moment, like how Lena had. It was like, it's translation.
Yeah. And when we eventually get to there later on, that like, because Theo and Cockroach were like, you make it so much better the way you say it compared to when we read it. So, and then Dr. Foster chimes in. He doesn't chime in. They kind of push him into it. And this is what he says. Oh, sorry.
Thou art shamed. Rome, thou hast lost the breed of noble bloods. When went there by an age since the great flood? But it was famed with more than with one man. When could they say till now that talked of Rome, that her wide walls encompass but one man? Now it is Rome indeed, and room enough, when there is in it but one only man. Oh, you and I have heard our fathers say there was a Brutus once that would have brooked the eternal devil to keep his state in Rome as easily as a king. The class dismissed.
Class dismissed right there.
Okay, like he was like, look, y'all gonna rope me into doing this. All right, cool. Like my friends kind of do me like this. I'm a music buff and a musical movie buff. So like, I know lines to movies and musicals and stuff like that. And so sometimes my friends would like start a jam session or something of the sort, and they'll be like, "Come on, Shani, it's your turn. Do this part." And I'll be like, "Come on, man, I don't really want to do this. All right, let's go." And then I give it my all. But my favorite part of this episode, I want to say, is the next speech.
Yeah, I'm about to cue that up. Yeah.
Oh, yay.
Look, just give me a second when I cue that up.
That's the slim Cassius, one of the conspirators, and says to his friend Antonius, "Let me have men about me that are fat, sleek-headed men, and such as sleep o' nights.
Yon Cassius has a lean and hungry look. He thinks too much. Such men are dangerous."
Fear him not, Caesar. He's not dangerous. He's a noble Roman and well given.
Would he were fatter, but I fear him not. Yet if my name were liable to fear, I do not know the man I should avoid so soon as that spare Cassius. He reads much, he's a great observer, and he looks quite through the deeds of men. He loves no plays as thou dost, Antony. He hears no music. Seldom he smiles. And smiles in such a sort as if he mocked himself and scorned his spirit that could be moved to smile at anything. Such men as he be never at heart's ease, whilst they behold a greater than themselves. Therefore are they very dangerous. I rather tell thee what is to be feared than what I fear. For always I am Caesar.
All right.
Yeah, Russell joins in. And by the way, I can't remember what Shakespeare play. I think it's Macbeth, and I think it's Julius Caesar, but I have to actually check it. But like Earl Hyman actually did that, as he's been on those plays before doing the Cosby Show. He's done those plays before. He's acted in them.
Yeah, I feel like I've known that bit of information too, and I would not be surprised if it was both, actually.
Yeah.
No. I remember now. Well, he probably has done multiple, but remember when Theo was studying Macbeth, when Theo and Cockroach were studying Macbeth and they were listening to it on the record.
Yeah. His voice was on there.
He was, yeah.
But yeah, so he's done that. So he's familiar of Shakespeare. Like, he comes from that theater background. So, and probably the same with Christopher Plummer, and the same with what's his name? Roscoe Lee? Is that
Roscoe Lee Brown?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think they all come from that world. So for them to act this, they're familiar with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and Earl Hyman, he I think at one point he was like a spokesperson for Kettle One vodka or somebody. It was some alcohol ad, and he was looking mighty spiffy in the picture. But I think like he also did a commercial. And if I can find the commercial, I'll find the link and send it to you, and you can post it.
Yeah, or will.
Yeah, because it was just like, oh, Grandpa Huxtable. How you doing?
So he did Julius Caesar. He played, I don't know how to say this character's name. Cisco? I don't know.
Cisco.
I can't. Cisco. And he did this in 1979. And then the other one he's done is Macbeth, which was, and he played Macbeth, 1968. And he probably had a few other ones that I'm just not finding. But yeah, so he knows. He knows this stuff. I don't think
Earl.
I have a feeling a lot of them because on the Cosby Show they do ad lib things. They don't sometimes go on the script, and so maybe this is what they have in their brain, that what they've remembered.
Yes, because that small moment where they get started, Cliff says, "Kick it, hey, yeah, kick it," and I'm like, okay, yeah. So this is the point where they're gonna have some rope.
And at this point, Theo says, like, this is the first time I'm actually understanding all this stuff. Like, because of the way, because they were able to recite it in a much easier way. And then Rudy was like, I'm a writer, like I write stories. And Jonathan was like, well, I want to read this writing. And so she goes and
Young
gets it.
Rudy,
Oh, yeah.
go hither and yonder to thy roometh and bring down thy scripteth for the minutes to read it.
And then she was like, huh? And then he's like, go
Go
the
to your
writing,
room
Jack.
and get the screw, Jack.
I don't understand the Jack part, but okay.
So Jack is kind of like it's one of those nicknames. You ever heard anybody refer to a person as a cat or a cool cat? It's just one of those cool, slick nicknames or terms of endearment, if you will. I think it was mainly between men, or that's how it originated. I'm imagining during like the times of the westerns. That's probably where it originated, or the old west type of things. Maybe I'll find that out. But yeah, he was using old school lingo on her.
Yeah. And we find out that the reason Russell knows all this stuff about Shakespeare is because when he was on that jazz group, back in the day where he played jazz, he started reading Shakespeare. And I'm like, for me, if I was bored on a bus, that's the last thing I'll read. I'll read
First
other
of all,
books.
the first thing I am sleeping.
Well,
the only thing I'm reading is the clock to see what time it is.
Well, no, but there's because if they're going cross country, there's a lot of time where you can't sleep because it's you've done enough. Yeah. So what would you do? Like for me, I wouldn't read Shakespeare. I would read other things because this is back in the day where there's no cell phones, no internet, so no social media. So that's
Oh, goodness gracious! I really don't know how we did it. I mean, I know how we did it, but goodness, oh man, these young kids got it made.
I guess Shakespeare was the fun, that it was the social media.
Yeah, and they valued reading literature. Like people who read literature back then, were seen as being or they were deemed high statured, or they were well respected, and people kind of got into that. Even in the age of going to dinner parties and stuff, you're discussing things that you read in Shakespeare, and you're comparing Shakespeare to something else, and you're using college textbook words that only people who have graduated with like 5 degrees could understand and apply to life, and then rip you to shreds in the same conversation with you. It gets real educated around these parts.
Mm-hmm. And so Rudy brings down that story, and Jonathan reads it, and it's basically, she is, the princess, and we find out that Vanessa has now become the witch of the story. And at first, Vanessa was like, "What?" Because usually witches are mean, they're the worst,
right?
Speaking of, we're in the season of Halloween, so the mean witches are out, right?
Spooky.
Yeah, but we find out that Vanessa's a good witch, and they all basically live happily ever after in Canada. I was like, whoa,
And then I like the life that they gave to the story. And I think later on down the road, that episode where Rudy wrote a story, but like it actually came to life.
Yeah, and they're all like dressed up in like weird color. Like they have big. It's the background has weird colors. That's all I can remember.
Yeah. Is that a later episode, or is that
that's
early?
in season 5. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So this feels like a prelude to that.
Yeah.
And just to be able to have the people in the room, I'm imagining, or I'm looking at this from the perspective of a little girl and having influential people in her life already. It feels like a full circle moment, because you have the young looking to the old, and the old is pouring into the young, and they're validating her feelings by reading her story. They're giving it life, making her feel like the young scribe that she is, describing herself to be. And this is a moment where you don't know, this could have sparked Rudy Huxtable, the writer. This could have sparked Rudy Huxtable, the actress, or Rudy Huxtable, the literature professor. You never know what direction this could have gone in for Rudy. And so the fact that she was given this moment and this opportunity, I loved it for her. I was like, oh, Rudy, you don't understand, little girl. You just don't see how much greatness you're in the room with. Like, love that for you. High five.
Yeah. What was it? I haven't seen the full documentary on YouTube, but do you know Amanda Seales? I assume you know her from Insecure, right?
I love Amanda.
Yeah,
I love her.
And she was talking about how, she loved school, and the teachers that she's had when she was like in first grade, second grade, they protected her, like, because they knew she was smart, and she was but like she was saying that, like, if she had gone to a different school, like if she wasn't protected, her life could have been somewhere else. You know what I mean? Like, because the teachers that she had, they protected her. They gave her the best education that she's able to get. And
she was truly nurtured.
Yeah.
She talks a lot about how she was truly nurtured, beginning at her mom. Mm-hmm. Her mom and her aunts, but mainly her mom. She honed in on all of her skills, like, which is why she was on things like My Brother and Me, and eventually worked her way into being a rapper and, building her career up to what it is now.
And she has a master's. She's a master's student, I think, or she like got her master's in African American studies or something like that. So
yeah. And I think she got that in recent years, I believe.
Oh no, I don't think so. It was like 10 years ago.
Oh, never mind. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, Amanda. Don't drag me. Don't kill me.
I think she actually went to Columbia too.
I think she did.
Yeah, because you said New York, and I'm like, she always talks about her times in New York.
And she talks about New York being a part of her life.
Yeah.
Oh.
Full circle moment right there.
Jam, drop it. Jam, drop it. That's on her. That's on her podcast. You do listen to her? Oh, okay.
Yes, I do.
Love you, Amanda. Come join us. Let's talk. She's like besties with Cree Summer.
Yeah, I know that. Because she went on to the Smart, Funny, and Black, like one of her shows.
I want to. Oh my God, I have to see it up close and personal, and I would love to participate in it.
Same. I think she's doing one in Boston, or if that was, I don't know if it was this past weekend, or I don't know. I just know she's been advertising about Boston.
She just did one, and I know she was doing it like the SFB in the crib.
Yes.
And she just had somebody notable on there.
But yeah.
Look, put me on there, Amanda.
And so the dinner is over, or the party is basically over, and it's cleaning time, and Claire has done all her cleaning. She just threw out her paper plates, which is like the best thing ever, because like you don't need to wash the plates. But
I don't have to wash no dishes.
Yeah, and Cliff was like, wait a minute, like, I'm not done, and we're in a marriage, which means we're supposed to be sharing, but like it was his idea for this barbecue, so honestly she could go relax, okay?
Because ain't nobody asked you to barbecue. I told you to stay in the house because it's November and cold outside, and you talk, nope, this is all you made your bed, lie in it.
Yeah. But then Cliff was like, I promise to clean in the morning, first thing. I don't know if that actually ever happens, but so he's like, Claire was like, okay, fine. First thing in the morning, you will clean the barbecue dishes right there, right? And so they go to the living room. They're gonna watch a movie, but before that happens, Theo and Cockroach come down, and they said they're done setting, and they do a rap. Let's take a listen to it. Give me a sec here, but it's hilarious that they they do a whole rap on it. Oh.
I say friends, let me hold your ear. And Romans, let me hold your ear. I say countrymen, let me hold your ear. No, I'm Marcus and Twins, but they call me Mark. I didn't come to bite, you see, I came to bark about the holes that the brothers put in Julius C. As far as I'm concerned, it was cool with me. You see, Brutus and the boys must know what they were doing. Caesar was about to run Rome to ruin, cause Brutus is cool. All Caesar did was to Romanize the world and put some bronze in the palm of every boy and girl. But the man so chill that when they handed him the crown, Caesar said, "No, baby," and turned the crown down. But Brutus, he said he's into greed, which is how he justified the odds of March's deed. But Brutus is cool. I say chill, homeboy, my house with Dr. J. So let's get busy till it comes this way. Cockroach, take it to the bridge. Pap, 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 pap. Doo-doo, 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 doo-doo. Now the last little Caesar scene before Homeboy Blue was to drop some old gold on each one of you. JC was your father. JC was your brother. And what I want to know, when comes such another great Caesar's ghost? The great Caesar's ghost. He's chilly long from coast to coast. A great Caesar's ghost. A great Caesar's ghost.
First of all, well done.
Yes.
Because do you understand, rhetorically, do you understand how much understanding you have to be able to make a rap, to summarize the story of Julius Caesar?
It's hard.
And then in the time that it took between the recitation of the different passages to them writing that rap and being able to perform it the way that they did, because y'all are not just reading something, y'all are rapping on beat, y'all got transitions, y'all got dance moves. Like, how long were y'all up there? And I mean, regardless of how long y'all were up there, y'all utilized y'all time very well and produced a very, very wonderful end result.
Mm-hmm.
Proud of y'all, man.
That seriously could be an actual rap song if they recorded it, and sell it. They got a mixtape right there.
Absolutely. All they needed was the Adidas tracksuit, the rope chain, the little Kango hat. Like, they would have been ready.
Mm-hmm. And also, Malcolm, he's a spoken word artist. So this kind of, you could see it from the rap right there, where that comes from in a way. I guess Carl didn't really go into rap himself, but
no, we don't, like, once he leaves the Cosby Show, I think I'm able to say, right, I was gonna say, I think I'm able to say that he went to being Cole. So, and then we see him in random roles after that, but as a staple, he was Cole.
Mm-hmm. So that ends the episode right there. And as for, I usually say the guest stars, so Lisa Bonet isn't part of the main credits, so she was actually credited at the end because she came as a guest, because she's technically, I think at this point we're in season 1 of A Different World, so she came, left Hillman for a weekend, I guess. They never really explained why she was there. I just realized.
Right, she was just there.
Yeah, I just realized, because there's another episode that she comes and they actually say she's home for the weekend, but this was just so random.
Maybe she was on a fall break. I know some schools have what they call a fall break. I've never experienced a fall break, but yeah, it's like a 5-day weekend or something like that.
Yeah. And then of course Earl Hyman came as, Russell Huxtable, and Roscoe Lee Brownie. Is it Browning? Is that how do you say his last name?
It's Brown.
He's, the usual Dr. Foster. He'll come back again, either another episode on the Cosby Show, but also he'll be on many episodes of A Different Worlds. And he's done the Proud Family. Like he's done a lot of that. Like he has 127 credits according to his IMDb. But he did pass away over a decade ago in 2007. We sadly miss him. And then we have Carl Anthony Payne again as Cockroach, and as I said, Christopher Plummer, who plays Jonathan Lawrence. And as we've already mentioned, he passed away this year, but he's done a total of 217 acting credits. That is crazy.
Ooh, secured the bag for sure.
Yeah, and as I said, he's a fellow Canadian also. And then, of course, as usual, Sabrina LaBeouf and Jeffrey Owens did not appear in this episode. They don't really appear in a lot of episodes in season 4, even though they're in the main credits.
Yeah, because when do we see them again? Roundabout.
They'll be at other episodes. They're in the main credits now compared to before where they weren't.
Right, because
now
Jeffrey, he was a recurring, right? He was a recurring guest star, and then he joined the family, and then so they kept him there, but we'll see them soon.
Yeah,
sometime.
And so I think based on this episode, because it's all Shakespeare based on this episode, I think what we got as a lesson is that Shakespeare is not boring. It just takes some time to understand. Or you could take, Cliff Notes too. But I think that's what they're trying to prove.
I'll just pin this with it's all about translation. Because essentially, with the different passages that they were saying, the first one was, why are you so afraid of Julius Caesar? What about him is so great that you don't have? What does he have that you don't have? Basically. And then Julius Caesar says, it doesn't matter. I am who I am. No matter what I say, do, no matter what happens, I am Caesar.
Yeah.
So everything is all about translation. Read between the lines. And if you need a spark note or a cliff note, go for it.
I agree. And then I've already asked this question at the beginning, but a question to the listeners: do you think Shakespeare is literature or is it history? Like, I want to hear the listeners say what we both.
Yeah,
we both are like, we don't know.
We should run a poll. Let's run a poll on Instagram and see what they say.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. For me, I say literature. I just history. You need plain English. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna ask my Facebook. I have some people who would have a debate about it. And let's reconvene next episode.
We'll see. Well, thank you again for coming on. It's always a great.
Thank you again for having me. I always enjoy myself.
Yes. You want to plug yourself?
Oh, well, you can find me on Instagram at Damn Girl You Know Everybody, and Twitter at I Love Them 90s. I'm trying to get my TikTok up a little bit, so if y'all can DM me some TikToks that I should do, then let me know. But yeah, I'm also I'm getting closer to developing my podcast as well. So yeah, so when I begin to do the launching and stuff, I'm definitely going to let you know.
Yes, please.
Because I'm excited to do this. Like, really geek. So, yeah. Do I have anything else? No, I don't have anything else I want to put out there. But
okay.
Stay woke, y'all.
Yes. And for the listeners, as you know, we're also doing a different worlds. Right now, I'm doing a different world solo just because the first season is very hard to go through it. It's just not,
Talk about boring.
Yeah,
that is boring.
Yeah, once we get to season 2, Shani will definitely be on. So, but still listen to a different worlds. Just listen to me trash the season. That's basically what I've been doing.
For real, because it's a lot of stuff. Like if you take the time out to watch season 1 of A Different World, it's like, all right now, come on, speed it up. I mean, but it's also some stuff like Whitley especially gets on my nerves. Season 1, like season 1, Whitley can catch these hands.
What are your thoughts of season 1 of A Different World?
It was really slow and drawn out, but it did show Denise in a different light. Kind of showed us why Denise is the way that she is, and it actually zeroes in on Denise more. In the Cosby Show, Denise, it's easy for Denise to fade and get lost in her family dynamic. She didn't really do anything crazy no, let me take that back. She always dressed eccentric, so she made a name for herself that way. But as far as having the big fun with the wretched moment, or getting arrested for speeding through Coney Island, she didn't have that. She went straight to going to Africa and coming back married and being a stepmom. But that's later into the show. So on A Different World, we see the Denise that she was afraid to be at home, which also speaks to the reality of first-time movers or people who have left home and gone to school and begin to test the waters of freedom. So it's very much needed and important still. It just needed to be what's the word that I'm looking for? Needed to be executed properly. And it was a good start in season 1, but you can definitely tell that when Ann Beats left and Debbie Allen stepped in, that it was a complete turnaround.
360. Really, there's so many great episodes in season 2 till season 6. Wish it could have kept going. I remember Kadeem Hardison was saying, he thought the show can continue, but without him, though, which I understand, because at that point he was at an age where they're no longer needing to be at school, so they could have kept going with with Lena and Gina and all those other characters and add more. I think that would have been great if they kept going.
I think so too, because there's still some things that I would have liked to see progress. I would have liked to see how Whitley and Dwayne handled parenthood. Kim was newly engaged. Ron and Freddie were navigating that relationship. I would have liked to see Ron actually get himself together and keep himself together, because we know Ron to be a Casanova, and every girl he get with, he like, man, I want to get serious with you. I want to act right. He did it with Kim, and then he gets with Freddie, and she forces him to be that same way, and it was starting to become innate in him. Like he was beginning to make boss moves as far as being in his band and keeping the gig straight was concerned. But then when he actually became the manager of the club, he was setting up his life and making a name for himself. So there was just plenty of progression that was beginning to unfold that we could have expounded on. Also with Charmaine, Lena, Dorian, all of them, when they moved into their own place, we only saw that 1 or 2 episodes of that. I would like to see how Dorian and Lena progressed, how Terrell and Charmaine progressed. navigating how they dealt with even more political decisions that came about. I would have loved to see how they were once Clinton got impeached. I would have loved to see a different world under a Bush administration. Even now, if we had a different world under a Trump administration, like stuff would have got so much more real than they already were. Mm-hmm. And they would have had something to grasp from because they were already politically involved with apartheid and the Haitians when they were at war or when they were dealing with their political struggles. And it's something else that the riots, the LA riots, Rodney King, all of that, they had that to glean from. So if anything, maybe Dwayne the Professor wasn't needed, but Dwayne at Mr. Yoshida's place, what is the name? Kanishiwa.
Yeah, but I think they end up going to Japan.
Right. And see, life in Japan, I would have liked to see that too. Raising a Black family in Japan. Raising a child, or a child being raised by a mother who was raised by a nanny out of the country, outside of every piece of resource that they have. Like, there's so many things that needed more light to be shined on. And yeah, I would like to see Gina progress as well too, because we see that she went through her toxic relationship and we saw that she healed from it. But what was next for her?
Yeah,
we never really knew what major Gina was.
Yeah, that's true.
We didn't really know Gina's purpose. Gina was just there.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have liked to see her story develop.
But she also spoke a lot of French. That's all.
Right, and that was because it was in her blood.
Uh-huh. Well, thank you for giving me your thoughts about A Different World. We'll definitely have you for season 2 once we get to it next year, because that's basically how long it'll take to get there.
Yes, let's do it.
But thank you for coming on. You're definitely going to come back on for another Cosby Show episode in the next month or so. So I'm excited for that. And I'm excited to hear about this new podcast when you launch it. We'll be the first one to let everyone know about it.
Thank you.
So, and we'll see you all on the next one. Talk to you guys later.